The roots of expanded cinema stretch back to the earliest forms of visual storytelling, where the screen was not confined by frames and borders, but merged with the very spaces it occupied. Before the flicker of projected celluloid captured imaginations, shadow plays and magic lantern shows blended light, movement, and live performance into fleeting spectacles. These were not confined to passive spectatorship. They thrived on the interactive and immersive. By the mid-20th century, as film technology advanced and artists began to interrogate the limits of cinema, the movement we now know as expanded cinema took form. In the 1960s, avant-garde artists like Stan VanDerBeek and Carolee Schneemann sought to transcend the screen and break down the wall between the audience and the art. VanDerBeek envisioned immersive multimedia environments, cinematic utopias that engulfed viewers with projections, soundscapes, and kinetic structures. Schneemann used her body as a canvas, merging performance art with moving images, reconfiguring the spectator's role into something active, charged, and sensorially aware. This was no longer cinema as a neat story delivered in a linear sequence. It was an experimental, visceral dialogue between space, technology, and human perception, a recalibration of the audience's relationship to the image. Expanded cinema isn't a movie at all. Like life, it's a process of becoming. Man's ongoing historical drive to manifest his consciousness outside of his mind, in front of his eyes. One no longer can specialize in a single discipline and hope truthfully to express a clear picture of its relationships in the environment. Youngblood, 1970, page 41. Expanded cinema evolved as a direct challenge to the industrialization and commodification of mainstream cinema. It was a rebellion against the screen as a confined window and the auditorium as a static, passive space. The movement leaned heavily on the idea that cinema could and should be more than an exercise in storytelling. Artists like Andy Warhol dismantled narrative conventions with epic, durational films like Empire, where the passage of time itself became the subject. Simultaneously, figures like Nam June Paik embraced emerging technologies, experimenting with video art, closed-circuit installations, and multi-channel projections to create dynamic, hybrid forms of cinematic expression. In this lineage, expanded cinema embraced interactivity and multiplicity, turning audiences into participants and often co-creators. The 1970s saw a surge in site-specific installations and immersive environments, where projections were mapped onto physical spaces, from the walls of art galleries to the open skies of outdoor venues. Cinema was no longer contained. It spilled out into the world, finding life in collaboration with architecture, performance, and sound. These experiments have influenced everything from the rise of music video aesthetics in the 1980s to the multi-sensory spectacles of contemporary virtual and augmented reality experiences. Moving image and screen-based art are now a common presence within contemporary art exhibitions, both inside and beyond the gallery walls. This increased use of moving image projections outside of non-traditional viewing spaces prompts an important reconsideration of film specificity. MacDonald, 2018, page 16. A shining example of this artistry is Bristol's own Compass Presents, a creative force enchanting audiences for over a decade. With their signature expanded cinema events, they weave magic into the fabric of everyday spaces. Picture acrobats soaring gracefully before films that dance across the sails of a ship, or the twirl of immersive choreographed dancers paired with dazzling magic shows. Imagine umbrellas illuminated by the timeless charm of Singing in the Rain, as performers and spectators blur the line between stage and screen. Compass Presents transforms each moment into a living, breathing spectacle of wonder. Why does expanded cinema matter? Because it reminds us that cinema is not just a medium. It is a space for imagination and a playground for experimentation. In its most innovative forms, expanded cinema blurs boundaries between disciplines, allowing filmmakers to tap into the tactile and the sublime. It insists that cinema is not a product to be consumed, but an experience to be lived, subverting the framework of the cinema industry that seeks to package and sell every frame. In a world where cinema often feels predictable and curated to the demands of industry, expanded cinema reclaims the screen as a site of wonder and transformation. It connects us to the primal power of light, sound, and movement. It dares to challenge the tyranny of the narrative and offers a space for the abstract, the poetic, and the breathtaking.